Thank you so much. This is going really well. I want to first thank our convener, who I lovingly call Pastowa. Translated means our pastor, Thelma Akio. This is a phenomenal event, the first of many that we will all be part of, and of growing this summit and making sure that the world over understands what God's entrepreneur is all about. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our speakers for this next session of the program, focused on God's entrepreneurs. Who are we? And do people really know who we are? So joining me to talk about that is Miss Phoebe Rivers from US. I see her already. Hi, Phoebe.
Hi.
We also have Mr. Tommie Harris, Mr. Adiwali,
Yes.
Aladdijano. I hope I pronounced your name well.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
So great. And in terms of the expertise, Phoebe has been working in the States, working with different organizations, helping them with capacity building, with funding, all sorts. She'll tell you more about herself. And I understand, and I look forward to meeting Adiwali, who is a real entrepreneur and also someone that's really kind of made money over the years. So really want to hear about your story as well and how God has been moving in each of everybody's lives. Welcome, Tommie Harris, his as well. Thank you for being here. So we'll just kick it off. I'll just have ladies first, of course. Yvonne, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey as a God's entrepreneur.
Wow, thank you so much. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here this morning. Coming to you from Washington, D.C. My name is Yvonne Rivers, and everybody calls me Phoebe, of Phoebe Global, and we have been based out of Washington, D.C. I've been doing business for about 30 years, the last 13 globally. We're now serving in 4 different continents, Africa, Europe, Asia, as well as the North America, U.S. and Canada. We provide business entrepreneurship training. Now, I like to say we build kingdom businesses. So that's where I come in about being a God entrepreneur. And I like to tag on to what Bishop Febb said regarding money will follow you. Well, money will chase you down. It will just chase you down, over abundance, overflowing, because that's what's happening now. But you have to plant the seeds. And over these number of years, I've been planting seeds and I'm reaping a harvest now. And the problem that I saw basically with businesses and entrepreneur training is for businesses not to go out of business. And that's what really my story, that I saw so many people failing simply because they didn't know what to do. Now, regarding on the kingdom side, my solution actually is to change poor Christians into rich Christians, or poor people or believers into rich, because the word says, Deuteronomy, don't let me take a text because I'll go on. So that's my short introduction.
Thank you, Phoebe. Moving on to the gentleman, and I'll just go as I see it on my screen. Mr. Adiwali first, and then Tommie next. Go ahead. Brief introduction of who you are as a God entrepreneur.
Right. Thank you so very much for having me. I'm so honored to be here today. My name is Adiwali Aladdijano, and I'm the CEO of a company called Sapphire Scents, but now Sapphire Group. We started off as a perfume company. It happened that in 2015, I was working at an organization where Thelma Akio was actually the ED for a while, so that's how we met. I was an intern, and then I became a staff, and I was working at that organization for a couple of years. But it happened that I was transferred. I was actually there was an office in the south of Nigeria, and I was suddenly transferred from that office back to Abuja, the capital of Nigeria. But it was a rough transfer because I was not given accommodation. There was no transportation. I had a 7 months pregnant wife. It was just a very, very rough time, and I was expected to be at work and all of that. So I began to think of other sources of income, but I couldn't. I was just thinking, what could I do for money to just support my family and just make life better for ourselves? And along the way, all my life, I always had the gift of perfumes. I knew perfumes. If I ever smelled your perfume and anywhere else, somebody else used that bottle of perfume, I could tell you exactly what you were wearing. And it was just something I used to play with. So I could walk past somebody, I'll tell you, oh, you're wearing Chanel. And they'll just be like, how did you know that? So it was just something I used to play with. I never took it serious. But now I was at a time where I needed to do something for money and it was really, really urgent. So I began to think myself, what can I do? What can I do? Then I said, okay, you know what? Why don't I start selling perfumes? I noticed that there was a particular kind of fragrance that people in Abuja, Nigeria enjoyed. It was the oud variant of fragrances. You could get oud from the Middle East, Dubai and all of that, and they really loved it. They were crazy about it in Abuja, Nigeria. And but obviously I didn't have money to start going to Dubai and to get this. So I started reaching out. There was a market in Abuja called Wuse Market. So I would go to Wuse Market, get these perfumes together, come back home, put them on a stool, take a picture, and begin to tell people about oud perfumes. I would tell them, I'll quote from the Bible, how Solomon used to talk about agar wood. I would tell them what David said about agar wood, and I said that this is history right here. If you are using this perfume, you are tapping into generations of royalty. And that was it. And every single day, I would sell a bottle of perfume. And the moment I sold the bottle, I would advertise and say, oh, this person just bought a bottle. In 3 months of doing that, I have turned over ₦1 million. 6 months later, I was able to resign my job and I focused on the business. And it's been 6 years since that time. We have sold over $1 million worth of fragrances right now. We are also on fragrantica.com. We have also diversified into so many other products. So that's our story in a nutshell.
Thank you, Mr. Adiwali. Moving on to Tommie Harris. Very briefly, what's your story
Yes,
as a God's entrepreneur? Who are you?
God entrepreneur. I'm Tommie Harris, retired from the NFL slash MBA in business, executive business from University of Miami. Um, Also a serial entrepreneur. And my main thing right now, because I had to make a pivot during COVID, I'm a speaker, an international speaker, but everything got closed down. So I had to become more innovative in different things. So I created a Beyond Wallet. I'm an investor in different companies, but I'm the CEO of Beyond Wallet. It's a cryptocurrency wallet that changes cash to crypto, crypto to cash. And it does a whole bunch of different cool stuff if you check it out, beyondwallet.com. But right now, I just spend most of my time encouraging people that are going through this difficult time to teach them how to continue to hold on when they can't see what God has for them yet, or they can't see this next thing. So I've been spending most of my time investing that with brothers and sisters that really don't know what's going on. The same way I had a little breakdown, I see that everyone's trying to act like they're together, but I see more people in psychic wards, more people getting help, more pastors hurting themselves in churches.
You're muted, Tommie. Unmute yourself.
I think you muted yourself by mistake. Unmute. Tommie, can you hear? Hello, Tommie? Hello, Tommie, can you hear me? Can the tech person please unmute Tommie Harris, please? While we're waiting for Tommie's mic to be unmuted, we'll just move on back to Yvonne to really, so this next question is really to talk about, tell us your experience and how God's faith, your faith in God, has translated into your business, and share some of the challenges that you faced as a God's entrepreneur as you do your work. over to you, Phoebe.
Thank you so much. My journey goes back a long ways, probably 40 some years that I've been a believer. But, and I'll say this, and I say it very staunchly and belief behind it. There are no failures in life. And so whatever challenge I have, I just step on my faith and my belief. And that has instilled my business that all things are possible. The biggest thing about that, and all things are possible in work that I do, is going into churches, into faith-based organizations, kingdom businesses, and to share with them there's so much more for you. I like to say that I have the 3 M's. The 3 M's are mindset. You've got to change your mindset. We're done with the days of chicken dinner, bingo, and all the rest of those things. We're talking about sustainable development. And part of sustainable development is really starting businesses. In my particular church, a previous church as well as now, that I've started a business incubator, allow the church members to be under the umbrella of a worship or a faith-based organization to build businesses. Those businesses themselves can employ the church people. We're talking about taking us out of poverty into kingdom and sustainable wealth. And Deuteronomy 8:28, God gives us the power to do that. So I hold on to that power and I take it to the next step, and well as to spread it to others, because knowledge is kingdom. Wisdom, that wisdom of putting into place. So all throughout the years, when times got tough for me in the very beginning, I would always go back to what purpose God gave for me. The name Phoebe, if you know that, 16th chapter of Romans, she was a deaconess. And I like to say she was in ancient time, the woman entrepreneur. She was well respected by Paul, and I claim that. That's why the name of my company is Phoebe. And that was a God divine name that God gave me in 1988. And I stand on that. And I really show that wherever I show up, to show there is another way. There is a better way. But if people don't know that, that's why this God's entrepreneur, the summit, the training in churches is so important. We need to raise up our level of faith. We need to raise our faith. And how we raise our faith is seeing the other way of how we can do things and not have, I'm famous for saying this, I soar with eagles. I don't deal with chickens because they're always with their head down. I soar with eagles. And we have to have that attitude. And I want to bring everyone who crosses the path of Phoebe to think like that too, that you can fulfill your greatest potential. Because our goals we set for ourselves are minuscule for what God has for us. And I'm so serious that God will chase you down or send blessings to chase you down. Be ready for it.
Fantastic.
Be ready for it.
Thank you so much, Yvonne, for that fantastic message. We'll come back now to Tommie. I think we've solved our technical issues. For you to continue talking about yourself and then now tie in your faith, which I think you were already started to talk about. How important is your faith on this journey, and what are some of the challenges that you faced as you are being a God's entrepreneur on this journey? Over to you, Tom.
I don't know where I cut out at. I apologize, but my faith is the most important thing. I said right now I spend most of my time really focusing and trying to keep at bay God's people. The ones that in this tumultuous time where everything's falling apart, where you can't get to churches like you used to. I watched myself change, and I watched many people around me changing. And God told me to take hold of the reins. Like, you just gonna sit there and let them do this. I said, no, God, I'm gonna get out of this depression. I'm gonna get out, because everything flipped in my world. I was speaking everywhere, traveling everywhere. The crowds is my money. When I got crowds, I'm getting paid. I'm making books. I'm doing different things. So I did not understand. If I get a quick second, I lost my wife in 2012 and retired from the NFL pretty early. So I did about 8 years in the NFL, but I had to retire because I mentally couldn't do it without my wife. It didn't make sense anymore, and I had enough money to retire. So when I finished playing, there was no other purpose but to help other people. I had a lot of money. I had all the stuff that people talk about, but nothing made sense without my wife. I mean, all the money in the world, I couldn't even save her. She died of a brain aneurysm. So I try to keep the focus that God becomes the center of wealth. Like Sister Yvonne says that if you align yourself with God, that he'll begin to open up the windows of heaven and pour out the blessings. But there's an alignment that has to take place. And I've been out of alignment many times. So I'm here to tell y'all, there's a true alignment. There's a spiritual chiropractic thing that got to happen that God does when he's ready to bless you. So most of my time now, I take focusing dynamic disciples, getting them ready to really be ready to be serial entrepreneurs for Christ, that they could do more things in one. You don't have to be one way. You can do multiple ways of investing, and just keeping their mind right and their heart right through the process of this world called business. It's a very manipulative space. Corporate space it's hard to be very spiritual in a corporate space. So I'm trying to learn the balance. And I got on this call also to hear from others that are dealing with a spirituality, but don't quite know how to just slam the door in someone's face because God told us to shut it nicely. So I came to get some advice. So most of the time I spend just encouraging others, helping others in my life, and just trying to make great dynamic disciples.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sorry to hear about your loss, which has now kind of propelled you to even do more for humanity. So thank you so much for your story. We'll come back to Adiwali now to, again, how has your faith, and I think you started to touch on it, from your last conversation with us. Tell us how your faith has woven into your entrepreneurship and maybe some of the challenges you faced as a God's entrepreneur.
It's been very, very unique for me. We are at a space in Africa where you don't find many people. We make perfumes, and you don't even have anyone you can say has done this before. There's no African that I know that has actually created it.
Tech.
That's the devil. He trying to be busy.
That's right. But the
devil is head.
He's a liar. This will go on. This will happen. Tech, can you please help us with Adiwali? Maybe while he's doing that, I want to ask the audience to please have your questions ready. We're going to move very quickly into the question and answer session for each of our speakers as they're, trying to work on the technical issue. So one of my, another question that I have for each of you, and again, I'll start with Yvonne first, is as a successful God's entrepreneur, what advice do you have for other God entrepreneurs in Africa? What key advice, 1, 2, 3, make it really succinct so that people can really walk out of here with some really good advice for their work as God's entrepreneur.
Sure.
Go ahead, Yvonne.
I would first say your first step is to believe in yourself. Believe first in God. Believe first in God that he's given you all the talents and the capability to accomplish anything that you need. Then believe in yourself and put in place, and I teach the 3 Ps. The 3 Ps are people, process, and profits. You have to have people. You have to know people. You have to be able to get along with people. Engage those who are like-minded around you, as well as those who are not like-minded. Show up you are. We don't have to tell people. And this is one thing I see a lot of Christian or kingdom entrepreneurs, they'll have on their business card, I am a kingdom entrepreneur. I don't have to tell anybody. I show that by what the work I do and how I show up. So essentially, the first P of people and having people around you and good people, and to you, because you're sharing with them. I have a team. Some from Zimbabwe, Kenya, Benin, and a couple of them, Calvin and Edna, on today. So the process, you have to have a system. You can't just think out of your head, well, I'm just going to start a business today and I'm just going to make money. It's a process, and you have to get education and training to do that. The profits is recognize and know your numbers. Just because, as Wally was saying, you got perfume. So he went back, he did his homework. He figured out and knew by going to that market how he could sell the perfume. You have to do that no matter who you have with that. So, and again, we already talked about mindset. So the 3 P's are people, process, and profits. The 3 M's are mindset, change your mindset. Focus on your belief in what you can do. And this mindset, just because no one else has done it does not mean you cannot do it. Number 2, what's your method? As I say, if you're a kingdom organization, start businesses, build buildings, business centers. My church here in Washington, D.C., Church City of Praise Family Ministries, that's a shout out to my church. With that, we have business centers, senior buildings, actually parking lot to the NFL team. Tommie, I'm here in Washington, Landover, you know, okay. They don't have a name right now, but
Right,
it's a Washington team. So along with that is bringing in money, not depending on tithes and offering. That's where you need to stay with that. So I say an entrepreneur in Africa or anywhere around the world, you have to have everything in place and knowing your numbers, having that mindset, having that methodology with that mindset also to maximize all that you can do. I did business here in the United States for like 20 years. Past 13, I'm global. 4 continents. There are 7.9 billion people in the world. I wasn't satisfied with 330 million in the United States. So you've got to spread your mind, enlarge your mind, so you can enlarge your territory, according to Jabez.
Fantastic points. And I like the 3 P's and the 3 M's. I love acronyms, easy to remember. So coming back to you, welcome back, Wale. And let's finish your thought process about how your faith is intertwined and some of the challenges that you faced as a God's entrepreneur. And then we'll move to Tommie about the question about being successful. Go ahead.
All right. Excellent. So like as I was saying earlier, so you're at this space where you don't even have anyone to look up to in the business. But the most profound thing, the name Sapphire came from Isaiah 54:11, which says that, O you who has been tossed with tempest, behold, I will lay your foundation with sapphires. That's where the name came from. And I remember very vividly, this was in 2016. I was creating my own line of fragrances because in the past I used to buy, and sell. Now people saw that we were doing quite well, so people started copying us. So people would wait for me because I had a gift. My nose was my gift. I could walk into any perfume store. I could tell which perfumes would sell out. I could tell which ones would not sell out. So people would wait for me to make my own selection and collections, and then they'll go and look for the same thing and start selling them. So suddenly I had competition. But then God began to inspire me to create my own line of fragrances. And he directed me to the book of Exodus, where God was telling Moses to create perfumes. So Moses was actually the first perfumer in the Bible. God told him to do the work of a perfumer, create perfumes for the temple of the Most High God, and God gave him recipes. And that inspired me. And I remember creating our first line of fragrances. And it's amazing that right now we have 28 different fragrances. We are the first Nigerian African perfume company to be on fragrantica.com. And, we've just kept on selling and selling and doing quite well. As for the challenges during the COVID, it hit us big. We didn't even see it coming. Suddenly we were selling a lot of perfumes. Suddenly we're not even selling perfumes any longer. We diverted to start making sanitizers, and that did quite well too. But, it put, but God has been faithful throughout, and I'm so grateful for this platform. There's so many people I can talk to, I can learn from, that can help us through our challenges. Right.
Fantastic. So in your situation, you were saying you pivoted during COVID, which kind of answered the question I was going to ask all of you, but you've already addressed that. So I'll come to Tommie now and then to Yvonne, because we need to wrap up. This has been a great conversation, and as you know, every good thing has to have an ending. So we have to come start wrapping up the conversation. So Tommie, please share a little bit about your, as a successful person, what sort of advice do you have for God entrepreneurs in Africa? And then tie that to, is there, now that we're in the pandemic, and I still say we are still in the pandemic because it's not totally gone yet, even though we're moving closer by God's grace. Tell us a little bit about, how the businesses can really kind of bounce back, if you will, or move forward. I like to actually say, build back, build forward instead of build back, but build forward during this COVID period. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I pretty much believe that right now that we're in a pandemic, and God is really doing a new thing, and to really hear what Sister Dr. Rivers was saying, she really broke that down when she covered that business part of everything. But at this time, the humility, the vulnerability that God has put on me to teach, and where I'm doing is servant leadership. And that's where I begin to, the servant, you must first, the 3S, you must become a servant. You must then commit to serve. And then once you become a servant, commit to serve, God will then send you the services. You will begin to get I've learned when your heart is truly in the right, that like some of people are being shifted and broken out what they're good at, what they're used to, and God is putting them in a growth phase. A lot of people are in a growth phase right now. I'm gonna speak from the eye, me personally, in a growth phase where what I thought was comfortable, what was easy access, God has shattered that all down to where I had no other right but to say, yeah, God, you in control. So I think this is not just a coincidence that all these things are coming to pass right now. I think that if we stay in the place of service and continue to be a servant, to show up every day as God's servant, what I recognize is that when I lost my wife, I realized that as a servant, your hand's always open. But at a particular part in my life, when I thought I did enough, made enough money, had the nice house, had everything perfect. So I want to give you the other side of it, that God, I clenched that. I worked hard enough. I had it. And he began to pick every finger open to take away to make me what I am. He birthed me here as a servant. You leave as a servant. So I just want to tell everyone that when the heart gets to a place of anxiety or depression or levels, and that will come, dealing in finances and money, that is a volatile place. That means it going up and down. And volatility, what I've learned, that I see volatility as breath, an opportunity that there's some days you're going to be in the hole. There's some days you're going to be high. There's some days, but you commit to ride the wave and use it as God gave it to you, knowing that you would not be here if it was not for God, and that God would never put a trial on you if he did not trust that you can bear it. So whatever we're under right now, I want to encourage everyone that it is bearable, which means that you can lift it, and you have the world's greatest spotter that sits above you with any trial, tribulation, trouble, that God is there to help you release yourself in a real place. So I want to say, if the greatest service of your business, any CEO, is that they remain a servant. I also want to tell you, when we begin in authority to lead our businesses from an authoritative place, and we add vulnerability to our lives, whatever follows us in our corporations, it will flourish. Now, if we're a leader or in our corporation and we're a liar or manipulator, and so a leader minus vulnerability, everything in this business will fail. It will not flourish.
Thank you so much, Tommie, for that. And sorry, there's one question that was asked that I think it's important that all three of you, again, if you can all take just 1 minute to answer this question, but we want to hear from each one of you. How do you deal with being ethical in business? As you know, in a very crooked society where it is okay to cut corners and apply sharp, unethical practices to business that are so common, how do you focus on doing what is right? Can you, all three of you, please share just your personal story on, doing what is right? And again, ladies first.
You do it. If you have the principles, if you are a God entrepreneur, you know how to operate. It is that straight and narrow road. You don't deviate around it. And because in its clarity, it's upfront clarification. You don't escape these secrets or trying to get over, whether you're trying to undercut anyone or with the pricing and so forth, it will come back and bite you. as the whole thing, and you build on your reputation. My reputation I've built over the last 30 years. No one can take that from me because I've been enforced ethical. They can trust me and who and what I say. And the reputation is not a amount of money you can buy it. You have to work to earn it. And as I say, they see me as a kingdom entrepreneur, and I don't have to say the word because they see it in my actions. So it's easy for me because I focus in on who I serve, not trying to serve others or even go into a deal that they offer you 2 or 3 times and whatever. My first thing, what's up with this? Because it's obviously something. If it sounds too good to be true, guess what? It's too good to be true.
Thank you, Yvonne. Wale, very quickly, 30 seconds, and then Tommie. Very quickly.
A little story now. In Nigeria, there's this agency that regulates the perfume industry. And, you know, the only stories and pictures and videos you hear of them is just them coming to a business and shutting it down. So everybody involved in cosmetics and that, everybody's really scared of them because you don't even know what to expect. But when it was time for us to start our own perfume line, I said, you know what, we're going to these people, whatever it is going to take us, we are going to do it. And, you know, by the grace of God, we are the only perfume company in Nigeria with that certification because we wanted to do it right, and God helped us. So I strongly believe that if you make up your mind to do it right, God will also help you.
Thank you. Tommie?
Mrs. Rivers said it all for me. We said the same thing.
That's it. Thank you so much. And I just want to close by again saying that who we are is a reflection of the God in us, and we need to all own that. And I think our 3 speakers today mentioned that, you know, the 3 P's, the 3 M's, the 3 S's, you know, people, process, profit, the method. Sorry, it's what's the first one?
Mindset,
method, and maximize, and then the service. You know, being a servant leader, being committed to serve, and then following through and just being willing to serve and just go through that. And then Wale, in your world, in terms of just really committing yourself and using the gift that God gave you, that to smell things, that you use to create a line that people has now brought you some profit. So you're solving problems for people and giving a solution and making sure that your business are ethical. So great. Thank you so much, everyone, for being